how to get started with exercise 2.3, designing label hierarchies in QGIS map design. So the first thing that you want to do is bring in all of these layers. And the place that these come from, once again, is the geodata that you've downloaded under QGIS 3_data. And then natural earth vectors packages on these natural earth vector packages. And then almost all of these are going to be the 50 million data, which you'll find down here, except for 10 million, the populated places. We can see we're bringing that in at 10 million and at 50 million. When you bring this all in, you're going to have a map that looks like this. I would suggest putting the polygons on the bottom, then the lines, and then the points on the top. And then we're going to start talking about how not only to design the map, but how to label the map so that in the end we can get a beautiful looking map that looks like this. And the key to this is going to be this style specification or spec sheet here. And it's going to tell us what different colors to use. For example, this is the color of the land, EC, DC. And you're going to set, dashed lines and solid lines. And even for the text, you're going to set the size of the text and other specifications based on what's on the style sheet. So let's talk about how to get started. So basically, some of these are just going in and changing the colors of things, like this lakes to a blue color under the symbology. And of course, you can just pick any color you want here. But once you've done that, you'll get a map that looks more like this next map I'm going to show. So let me go ahead and bring in this next map that looks like this. So this is getting closer to what we saw in the book here. So what have I done? Well, I've changed the colors according to those color specifications. I put all of my polygons on the bottom, and then I've put my lines above there, and then I brought in my populated places twice. And we can see if I show here what I'm currently showing is just the 50 million, 1 to 50 million scale map populated places, but we're going to be using this 10 million here for our labeling, and we're going to be labeling the capitals with this 10 million. So that's why we brought it in twice. So another reason this map looks good and different is that in these ones here, I've set this to display on the feature class as you're indicated, and that once you do the classify button here, it'll bring up all these different featured classes, and then you can set the individual symbols to the marker, to the fill marker, and then you can select, instead of a triangle, you can see it changes up here. We're going to select the star. We're going to say how big it's going to be and say OK here and OK here. And that's going to set it all for this. And we do that twice. We do that for this one and for this one. Okay. One of the things that really makes this map unique is kind of a little bit of shading that we've seen there. And that little bit of shading is done on the coastline layer, as is indicated in the directions. And if we look at the coastline layer, we've selected a color like this. But if we look under the layer rendering here, so if we go here and look under the layer rendering, we have a draw effect on. And this draw effect, if we click on the star over here, it gives us these different options. And we're currently doing something that's called a drop shadow. We can see on the upper right side of the land, there is no shadow, or upper left side of the land, there is no shadow, and on the lower right side, there is, as if a light was coming in like this, and the land was raised up above the water. If you wanted to, you could play with other things like an outer glow or an inner glow, and see how you like those effects. Like this will give like a little bit of softness around there. You can kind of see like just a little bit of a faded out area around there, more apparent where the islands are. And you can pick any of those effects you want, but I'm going to change that back just to the drop shadow. Turn that one off. You could add both if you wanted to. Say OK and OK. So that's giving us that effect there. Another thing that I've done is I'll put this in a map projection, a world map projection. That goes under projects and then properties. And this is the coordinate reference system. So you would select CRS. This is set to the Robinson world. So if you type in Robinson here in the filter, it will find the Robinson world projection and just set it to that. Okay, so now we're going to start talking about labeling, and there's only one thing labeled currently on this one. That's the equator and the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle. The place that I did that was I just labeled the geographic lines here. So let's see how we label something. In this case, this is where we set our symbology to a dashed red line as they indicate on the style sheet. But if I go under labels here, this is where the labels are coming from. So we're labeling based on something in the attribute table called name. And here we're setting the values. We're setting the size. If we go under the text here, we're setting the size and the color of the label. And then it's also asking us, we could set where the placement is. Right now it's parallel to the line and it's above the line. We could reset those things if we want to. And that's what's going to put that on the map for us. It also asked us to set the priority, and we're setting this at a medium priority. Other ones will be set at a high priority here. So that's how we would label these lines here. But now we want to label the cities as well, and we want to have a hierarchy associated with that as well. So I'm going to open up one other project here to kind of get closer to something that is a final product here. And that's shown here. So what have we done here? Well, we've labeled the countries in all capitals. We've labeled the capital cities like Madrid and Lisbon kind of in a larger type. And then we've labeled the other cities in a smaller type here. And we can see how we did this. We used this 10-meter label to label the capitals, these two types of capitals, and we used this one to label only the populated places. So we applied one label style to this one and one label style to this one. Let's have a look here. So for this one, we can see we've set this priority to high for the capitals. And under the formatting, under the text, this is where we set the type of font, what size it is, and that sort of thing. So this is pretty typical type of things that we do for labeling. But one that's a little bit different, and you can just look once again on this on the style sheet to see what the labeling is. This is Georgia, regular 8-point labels, and that's the color of the labels, and the priority is the second from the highest for these towns here. But one that's a little bit different is for the countries. The countries are complicated because here are the lines for the countries. If I take that off, all the countries disappear. So we're just putting the lines on the very top. This one here is just the land. So it's just land versus where there's not land. This is actually where we're getting our labels from, the map subunits. So let me go ahead and double click on that. And if I go under labels here, we can see that what we're labeling is the abbreviation. So that's what's coming out of the attribute table, because not all of the country names will fit. Like Portugal is abbreviated to PORT and Spain to SP. So we want to use those abbreviated labels, but we also want to use all uppercase so that it stands out against the uppercase plus lowercase of the capitals and the cities. You can see how Sudan stands out there. So we want to use all uppercase, and then we kind of want it spread out so it kind of goes across the country somewhat. This is 8-point size, so even though it's a country label, we still keep this pretty small. We don't want this overpowering the map. And then in addition to that, we can change the spacing. Like for example, if I change this to 5 from 2, we'll see that these labels are a little more spread out when I go ahead and apply that. And you can just play with that. I wouldn't make it huge because you don't want it spread across the entire country, but whatever you find pleasing there, go ahead and use that. And then this is something that's just about right at your final map now. So this is the last step to kind of make all these labels work well together.